I'm pretty confident in my guess that it'll stick around for the indefinite future. I think that the military will not be switching unless something revolutionary comes along. They have too much money in 5.56, in the system, the rifles, the magazines, the whole thing. And individual rifles are not what they use to kill people at a distance. If you're talking anything past 50, 100 yards, it's just statistically not important. It's used for suppressive fire. They're keeping people feeling like they're contributing. But since World War I, machine guns, artillery, calling it airstrikes, vehicle fire, that's what we use to kill at a distance, or dedicated long-range rifles. And I don't see it changing. If you start working up close, like a lot of what was done in Iraq, it works fine. At a distance where it's not so great, that's not what we're using anyway. It wouldn't matter if you gave the average infantryman a 308. He's still not going to hit anything at that distance. He's not even trying. He's trying to keep their head down while somebody else is going to shoot them or drive them away. The police, same thing. They don't need long range. The people who are going to use long range have their own rifles. And it's a sunk cost in both cases. They don't need to spend the money. There's no advantage to them spending the money. They'll put the money into better machine guns. They'll put the money into, better tanks, artillery, aircraft, and snipers and designated marksmen might get us some fun toys. But as much as they like them when they need them, logistics side, they generally don't like them. They don't give them a lot of money. And private, there's so many in 5.56 and 2.23 that it's not changing. There's so many of those owners that are not really into guns. They don't care. They're not motivated to switch. And the folks who are probably don't have one rifle. They own a bunch. They're going to build a new upper. If they have to buy magazines, they buy magazines. If they have to buy bolts, they buy bolts. And they shoot all of it. They shoot old, new. There are people who compete. They hunt. They're actively using the rifle, not just going to the range once in a blue moon. And they're already the people buying the other calibers and 5.56. So most shootings putting holes in paper. That's it. It's not even competitive. It's just having fun, ringing steel, holes in paper. So who cares? Why would you spend more money? Most rifle ranges are 100 yards. You're lucky if you can shoot more than 100 yards in this country. If you live in the country, sure. But even then, it's tough getting more than 100 yards in a straight line. If you live in the boondocks, great. But the majority of people don't shoot that far. And the ones who do can perfectly well get other calibers and shoot them, and will probably go, hey, this is expensive. Let me keep shooting my 5.56 most of the time. It's just got too much established dominance. New rounds are going to, okay, there's this much of this one, this much of that one. Nobody's going to be dominant enough to have the economy of scale that 5.56 already has. If the military switches, maybe it might help. But I think it's going to take, and I've said this before in videos, I think it's going to take a revolution in propellants or projectile technology, because right now we have a limit of about 65,000 PSI for a normal round. You can exceed that short term, you can exceed that in specialized stuff, but you're going to eat barrels, you're going to destroy brass, you're risking blowing the gun, because the case literally came apart in the chamber. The case head separates and literally flows apart. The pressure turns into liquid. Plasticky. It deforms rapidly. But until you can get to like 80,000 plus, you're not really changing the dynamic. You're not changing the answer of, in its world, 556 does really well. Do other things do it better? Yeah, but not that much. Things that do have their own compromises. And I think that what's going to happen is we're going to see a revolution in propellant, probably something where it burns in a controlled manner even more than we already have. And they do this with artillery already, where you're burning more and more propellant as the bullet goes down the bore. In the case of artillery, the artillery shell, the naval gunfire shells, you're actually continuing to maintain pressure the whole way. And the problem is it's just too freaking expensive in small arms. I mean, it's massively expensive. So, okay, you go with a two-part case where the base of the case, the head of the case is a different material. Yeah, that's expensive as hell too. If you've got another topic, chime in, man. Somebody's here listening to me. Different projectile could be something that doesn't have to move as fast to have the same effect. I don't know what that could be. Super light, but does something on impact to make it effective. Because you run into the same problem. You have to go fast enough to get the ballistic path. But if you go too fast for a given diameter, you destroy barrels. It's a whole lot of catch-22. And nobody's watching the stream.